Oh? Oh, is it working? I see something. Hey, we have something maybe working, I think. Oh, is it working? It is working, and the audio doesn't sound bad either. That's a double win right there. Sorry for the delay. There's this funny little thing about humans. They have to consume a certain amount of calories every so often. It's a really weird feature. I'm surprised no one's patched it out yet, but yeah, we're gonna get started with the director's commentary for the new the hit video. The hit video. It's the hit new video. Oh gosh, dang it. I'm just gonna put out a little thing here saying, "Yo, we live. Time to direct some commentary, boyos." And then a picture of something. I think that'll do. Just a picture of the thumbnail. Director's commentary. Can I link to it? I don't know if I can actually. This is how like infrequently I do these streams. I always it's always like a learning experience. Like I gotta refigure out how to do it. I'm sorry that oh, did I do the right thing? Yeah, I did. I'm sorry that this is actually a little bit behind schedule. There was a problem with YouTube streaming, and it just didn't want to work for some reason. But now we're here. Luke, he's already jumping into Discord. I'm getting him back in as well. Yeah, we're gonna go and we're gonna talk about the video that just came out. I am hopefully not going to ramble too much. I don't want to waste too much of your time, but let's not kid ourselves. That's gonna happen regardless. Let's see who's here. Angelo's Random Facts, Blue Puffball Studios, Trouble, 607 Productions. Hello, welcome to the stream. David D. Billington. I hope I pronounced that right. Thank you to the stream. Yeah, we're gonna get started here. I'm just waiting on Luke to... I don't know if he wants to join. He said that he was going to Discord, so maybe he will. I should probably get my headphones then, actually, if he's gonna join. If I can find them somewhere around here. There they are. Gosh, I hope this doesn't screw things up. It probably will. Oh gosh, it's like tangled on it's like you know those curly stretchy cords? It was like tangled in on itself. Plug that in there. I don't know if this will cause things to stop working. I hope it doesn't. I can hear things, and so can OBS apparently. So I think we're good. But I'm trusting you guys. If I suddenly just go completely quiet, that's on you to let me know. I am putting that burden on you, the viewer. If I can just... I think we're all good here. Output. There we go. Let me just check real quick. Are we outputting? We're outputting a lot. Let's see here. This is the part of the stream where I do all my beta testing during the stream instead of before, because it would be silly to do it before. That would just be ridiculous. You got to do it in the moment while it's going on, so it can be like it can be like a learning experience together that we can troubleshoot as a team, me and you. I can hear things. Play Don't Pause 2023. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like something I would say. Let me rephrase. I don't like your vids. I love them. If that's directed to Luke, then good job, Luke. If that's directed to me, then thank you very much. If that's directed to both of us, hey, then we both win, I think. I think that's how it works. Anyway, while we're waiting, how are you guys doing today? You having a good Sunday? I'm doing all right, I guess you could say. I just changed the tires on my car. That was interesting. I don't usually like get down in the dirt, so it was kind of fun. You jack the car up, and then we got this like this. It's not a drill. I don't know what it would be called. Um, it's like this thing that you use to unscrew the bolts holding in the tire, and then you just take it off, and then you put the new one on. And so I did that because it's finally no longer winter. We got snow where I live like a week or so ago, and I was like right before that snowstorm hit, I was like, oh, I should probably change my tires. And then the snowstorm hit, and I was like, dang, I'm glad I didn't change my tires. Trouble says, I ate some French fries till went sick. Until you were sick? You ate French fries until you were sick? Ooh. I mean, McDonald's will do that to you. Let's see, is Luke... Oh, Luke is calling me. Here we go. Hey, yo, how's it going?
Hello, hello, hello.
I didn't see your thing for a second. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I'll
No,
turn
it's all right. All right, so once again, like last time, I have muted the stream. Otherwise, I'm just going to be hearing like two of you talking at once.
You're going to be hearing me in stereo, I think is what the kids call it these days.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess we should get started then, right?
Yeah, let's get started.
Alrighty. So, Luke, why don't you tell the fine folks at home while this video is just playing in the background, what happened here to make this possible? Wondering to yourself.
Okay, so a couple months ago, the production Bible for the Hit Entertainment era, I guess was something that they pitched to Ghislaine Entertainment, leaked online. No idea where it came from, but it leaked online, and we were able to see all the things that they plan to do with the series with their takeover in 2003. We saw that and just thought, let's take the piss out of it.
Yeah, that's basically it. Well, cause like I don't know like when you saw it. I was on Twitter I think at the time, and I saw just one person mention this thing. I was like, hey, wait a second, and then I went into like a rabbit hole, which is it's always fun going in the Twitter rabbit holes because you never know what you're gonna find. It could be literally anything. So yeah, we were just like, why not just make this a fun little video. Originally, this was just going to be another episode of like the standard Analyzation Express, where it was just like one image and then what's the word? And just people talking over it.
Yeah.
That was the original plan, and if I had done it that way, it would have been out infinitely faster. It probably would have come out like a month after we finished. But instead, because I'm cracked out of my mind, I decided, let's make it a whole fucking produced thing. With way too much stuff going on in the video. So, yeah, that's how we got here. This video took forever because when we started recording it, I figured like, oh, it'll be like a couple hours at most, and you know, one session turned into two, and then two sessions turned into three, and by the end we had like 6.5 hours worth of audio.
But there was just so much of that production Bible to read.
Yeah, well, it's like it just goes on and on and on forever. Like if I can, I'm gonna pull it up here just so I can like have a reference. How big is this thing? This is...
Also, kudos to Victor Tanzik for lending you that video footage of the inside the coach.
Oh yeah, that was honestly like the first big breakthrough. Is just getting a set put together was huge for this, because I was thinking to myself, if I'm gonna like make the video like this, or let me rephrase that. If I'm going to make it like a proper video and not just a podcast, there's got to be like something to show for the footage, and you can't...
An environment for us to interact with in a way.
You can't just like... Maybe I could have found a way to like fill in the spots where we're talking like in the talk show segments, quote unquote. But it was just so much easier to like do it like that, because there's moments where like you think, oh, I don't know what to show here, well, I'll just show us talking in this, like uh it's like watching like one of those late night talk shows, but it's on a train, which
Yeah.
someone says it reminds me of Salty DK Dan. Yeah, that was literally the style that I was going for, 100%.
Just to clarify, we're already about like 10 minutes into this, but can everybody hear me in the stream okay?
They should be able to. That's a good question. Let's...
We probably should have figured that out before we started playing the video.
Nah, it's fine. It's part of the fun. Let's see here. Someone says, yeah, I believe I checked my...
Yeah, they can hear me, that's good.
Yeah, they can hear you. Phew, which means we don't have
Fantastic.
to... Otherwise, it would have been really embarrassing, because it would have just been me talking to myself like a lunatic. But yeah, it's very much based on the style of Salty DK Dan, with Luke graciously offering his logo for a character. Which, thank you for that, by the way, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. That's actually recently kind of updated like version of my logo, where I basically made the colours a bit less washed out, so that it's a bit more vibrant and stand out.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, I will say though, commenting on like my voiceover for this, listening back to it, I wish that I had remembered to take a breath at some points and kind of like slow down, because I'm talking at like a million miles an hour, and you can really tell that with how the voiceover is edited.
Yeah, well, a good portion of that is me taking breaths out. I mean, not all of it, because with a podcast style video, it's okay to leave in like the moments where you hear someone breathe.
Yeah.
But there are some parts where I'm like, I'll just like take that breath out, just to make it, because like sometimes you get a breath that cuts off halfway.
Otherwise, it sounds like the Michael Angelis early dubs of season 4, of series 4.
Just rushing through it as quickly as possible.
It's not only that, but they also like left in when he takes breaths.
Oh yeah, they did that for the US dub as well. You can very faintly hear George Carlin just go like when he goes to his next sentence.
Oh yeah, I think I remember you showed me something around that when you did like I forget which video it was, but when you pointed out that George Carlin did it, yeah, it was quite noticeable. Though Michael Angelis was a bit more noticeable, because when he took breaths, you could really hear those breaths. So it was, and I'm referring to the scene that was like shown in the Steaming to Legacy documentary, and it was the one where they're talking about looking at the maps, trying to find Duke, and this is how the voiceover went. Maps lay everywhere. If we follow this track into the mountains... It's like it was that noticeable.
If we follow this track into the mountains... like he's... yeah, so...
You've sucked it through your air intake!
Yeah, so there's a good, like... bit of this video is just like making the pace a little snappier, which is just, there's a lot of like audio trickery going on behind the scenes, which you'd never notice, because I mean you can't see it in the final video. But real quick, someone's asking me, have you ever seen the Trampy Thomas and Friends episodes that he's been making?
Oh, the Trampy movies. Oh, I've been loving them. They're fantastic.
Yeah, you actually you tweeted about it on Twitter, and I saw it. I was like, what is this? And I watched, I think it was Coaches was the second one. It was like the quick little 2-minute one. And
yeah, the one where they were talking about, it was like the opening of Thomas's train, but it was like redone. It's like a 2-minute opening.
Yeah. And I watched that. I was like, wow, that's like a really cool thing. And then I saw he put out like the first big one. I was like, oh wow, that's really impressive.
So, it's the way that he it's the way he edits the voiceovers and the environments to make them sound like incredibly natural, and his comedy is brilliant. I think it was the Percy takes the plunge one that just had like that just had me
Yeah,
that just had me chuckling so much.
yeah. That's my favorite's the mine short, just because I don't know, just something about that one where Thomas is just he's in the hole and he's like, gosh dang it, how could this get any worse? And you just hear Gordon like howling
Laughing in the
in the
background.
background. I don't know, that was pretty funny. But yes, I have seen them. I don't know if I could ever find a way to like talk about them in a video, but yes, Trouble, I have seen them. Um, what the? Wait a minute.
I mean, maybe you could do a who did it better now, considering he did. Considering he's, he now done like he's now done full length versions of the episodes.
I could. The only thing though is like there's no footage to go along with that. It's just like it's just images, and I don't know how I'd like the draw to it is the voice acting.
Yeah, and I feel like you'd have plenty to say given your OCD audio
Oh
mind.
my gosh. That's another thing is that his audio is like spot on as well. He's got good voice work.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyways, I do have some other stuff that I want to move on to here. So, um, why the change in presentation? I think we've covered that pretty well, but I just want to like reiterate it was mostly to just make it a more interesting video because the thing with the original analyzation expresses that I did, those 8 videos are meant to be like, I don't want to say they're filler, but they're kind of like, okay, I'm in between like my 2 big projects here. We were coming up on like the awards show, and I was like, okay, I'll just schedule a bunch of stuff for like the next 8 weeks, and then it's not such a big gap in time.
Yeah.
But then getting into this, I was like with that hindsight, I was like, I don't really want to just do that again. I want to try to make this something a little bit more interesting because it was kind of easy to just like put out a podcast thing. I'm not saying I'd never do a podcast style reading like that again, but I wanted this to be something special because it was a lot of fun. This was genuinely like one of my most favorite videos to work on.
Oh, it was definitely just fun to sort of like sit down and sort of take the piss out of the absurdity of wherever the heck this of wherever the heck this Bible came from.
Yeah. Actually, I did. I don't know how much detail I can go into about this because it's kind of not personal information, but it's kind of like on the down low, you might say. Where
Yeah.
emailed the guy who originally leaked the thing because right when I was finishing this video up, there's a blurb at the very end where I realized, wait, this could be like totally fake. Like someone could easily write this in a Google Doc and just pass it off as an official thing, and no one would
Yeah.
really be able to prove it. And so I was like, oh my gosh, if I get like pranked or something from this, I mean, everyone would have fallen for it because I don't
Yeah,
think it,
everybody would have fallen for it at that point, considering everybody was talking about it around the time of when it was being released.
yeah. And I didn't see a single person be like, is this real? Because on the internet, like you just, I don't think, I don't want to say like nobody fact checks anything, but I feel like there is a stronger lean towards taking everything you see as like truth without
Yeah.
super looking into it. And so I emailed the guy. I was like, "Hey, can you give me like some kind of proof that this is actually a thing? I'm not trying to be rude or anything. Just I want to make sure this is legit." And he's actually like very nice guy. He was very accommodating with that. He gave me some information. He sent me a
Yeah.
couple emails of how he got it, and yeah, I can confirm that as far as I'm aware, this is a real thing that somebody really made.
Wow.
They don't know if this was the exact copy that they used for the final show or if there was like another one made, because apparently there was a couple different versions of the Bible made, which is a sentence.
That makes sense. That does feel like I mean, considering all of like the grammar mistakes that were made in that, maybe that was a kind of early draft of the Bible, and considering how like changes would happen afterwards, like how the original plan was to have 3 7-minute episodes, but then they decided to include series 7 in the middle instead. That could have definitely been a first draft that they just left and just thought, nobody will find this, and then about 20 or so years later, a bunch of Thomas fans on the internet say, "Hey guys, check this out."
Yeah. Hey, look what we dug up from nowhere. If any like community on the internet is gonna find some just like wild shit out of like nowhere, it's gonna be the Thomas community. Like,
Oh yeah,
I don't think I've ever heard of like any other like group of people finding stuff about a show that was like, just lost to time, like just digging out of the woodwork. I don't know where they find this stuff, to be honest.
neither do I.
But
But to go back to the video itself, we can now confirm that your logo is capable of growing facial hair.
uh this okay, this scene right here, this we've completely ignored like most of this, but there's not really. I'll get back to the other scenes in a little bit because I want to talk about them a little more thoroughly. But this scene right here was legit my favorite part of the entire thing to animate. That and the intro. It
Yeah,
was they were both like so. The intro was like the point where I really felt like I was ready to show this off. That was the point that really excited me. This was the one that I enjoyed the most animating, though, just because it has nothing to do with anything. It's a totally just like off the wall story, and it's very in the spirit of the other thing that this is based off of, which is In the Field by the
yeah,
Internet Historian. And I think I sent you one of the videos just to
yeah.
like show it off. Someone says in the thing, ice cold pea shower. Yeah, that was basically what it was. Um, it was just so much fun to get to tell that story because that's like the one of the big stories about my dad and the things that he's done that I've wanted to like make a thing about, but I've never had like a good excuse to. Um, someone sent me a tip. Holy, what?
Oh yeah, they've said about is that
It sent. I just noticed that right now. It just came up on my
yeah
screen. What the
yeah I've
heck?
just noticed that as well. The potato with the hat, the potatoes is sent. Is it €2? Like I don't really know different currency signs.
I think that's the euro. Yeah. Um, I think. I don't quote me on that. Do you have tips for Thomas shows? I'm working on one of my own. I'll pause that for a second. Um, First of all, thank you very much. That's the first time someone's ever tipped me. I don't really know what to say other than thank you. That's awesome that someone would do that. If I had to Oh, so I thought someone said you've now been given mutiny. I was like, wait a second, what? um if I had to give tips on what to do, it would be just like start small with like the fundamentals of filmmaking and then just keep like trying to improve in little ways from there, because that's really the only way that you can improve with something.
Yeah,
I would recommend like looking at and watching a lot of whatever you're trying to recreate, because that I find that like if I want to write a story in a particular style, I'll go and like search out other stories that use that writing style to try to emulate that, I guess you could say.
yeah. If I were to give any like tips for like making like your own like Thomas shows or like Thomas stories, think as far ahead as you possibly can. When it comes to like making your stories, the worst thing I think you can do is write just one story and then focus all of your time, on that story, just try to get it done, with the filming and the recording and the editing. And then when you get to making the next one, you're drawn to a complete writer's block. So think ahead as far as you can about how many stories you want to tell. If you want there to be an overarching story that has a conclusion towards the end, and basically, the more you think ahead with it, the more you'll succeed with it, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's infinitely better advice than what I would. Yeah, I'm thinking more like on the side of like production and cameras and stuff. Um, but yeah,
If just I've just something that's like come to my mind about like making stories, because I've been like thinking that this is actually kind of unveiling kind of like potential projects for me in the future. But I've been thinking about what would I do if I come to like making my own Thomas stories, because once my like review series, I mean, I know as I'm only just into the hit entertainment model series, but if it but when I finish reviewing content, or at least I run out of things to talk about, what could I bring? And I thought about how I would like make my own stories. And one thing that I know that that I want to do first is kind of similar to what they did with the original series, and that's like create a pilot episode, then show it to friends and family and other people to get their thoughts on how they think it, on how on what they think of it, and if they like it, then I go ahead from there, and I basically make a ton of stories at once, in a sense.
yeah. If I could give like two pieces of advice, someone else just tipped me. What the heck?
Yeah, that
This
is
is
three.
three W's, 3,000 W's.
What the heck? What the
I,
heck's a
I don't know what that
what?
is. It says it's a super chat. You guys are too generous. This is I don't know what to say here.
Generous and also confusing, because I've no idea. It's KR money.
It's what?
Korea. It's Korean money.
Oh, it's Korean money. That's I've never seen that symbol before.
I'm gonna.
So someone just like Korea? I don't know why that was funny to me. Thank you very
So
much. I'm genuinely at a loss for words. I've completely lost my train of thought. So I guess trying to like pick up where what I was trying to say. If I can give two tips, it would be to try to, I would say, think outside the box as much as possible. I've noticed that
yeah,
with a lot of stories, like a lot of stories in the fandom, the more you try to take chances with ideas for stuff, the more people are going to gravitate towards that, because we've seen a lot of stories that they're very good, but they're also very safe, if that makes any
yeah,
sense. And I think just trying to like do something that maybe hasn't been done before is a really strong idea. Even if it doesn't like pan out the way that you expect, it's definitely like just a good practice to try to always be making something that's like a little bit different than
yeah.
the next thing. The other tip I have is don't, how do I put this? Um, when you make stuff, I found in the creative process, you get to a certain point where as you make something newer, the older stuff starts to look less good. So
Oh boy, do I know that feeling.
yeah, like I recently went back and watched one of my older Who Did It Better videos, the Thomas and the Breakdown Train, and oh my gosh, it is it hasn't aged as well as I thought it would. I still like the video. I'm still glad that I made it, but there like the audio 10. The read is not bad, but it probably could have been a little bit better. Um it's just one of those things where like you don't hate your own work, like don't be afraid to like look back at your work, but be prepared that like it's as you move on to bigger and better things, you're going to eventually, when you look back at something, be like, oh, did I really make that? But I would highly suggest like don't delete it, don't whitewash it or anything.
Oh
Whitewash, is
yeah.
that the right word?
Oh,
That's not the right word.
uh, no,
Don't
no, no. Oh, no, you're right. But that's not whitewash. Whitewash is a completely different thing.
wait a minute. Oh God. Oh no. I've made a grave and terrible mistake. Oh dear. No. No, I didn't mean
Oh
that.
god.
What I mean is like don't think to yourself like, "Oh, this is bad and I've done so much better." Think like well, this was the best that I could do at the time and this was like a stepping stone. Because
Yeah.
I've like getting into a creative field like this, you're always going to gravitate towards the newer thing that you made over the older thing. So, yeah, just keep that in mind is all I can say.
And honestly, the more you look back on your old work and think, like what the hell was I thinking? The more you'll think, okay, I know now not to make that mistake.
Yeah. Um, I can't look at my older stories without cringing, and it could be better. Yeah, but
God,
that's the. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat.
yeah,
Um, like that's kind of just like part of the creative process. Is that you just keep improving essentially. Like I've written things that aren't published online, and I'll go back to them like a year later, and I'll be like, that's, but that like you can't just go back and keep fixing stuff.
yeah.
Someone's asking, what in your opinion is the best hit era season? Luke, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. I could take this. So I'm guessing by hit era, it means both like the model stuff and the CGI stuff, which I think we can just safely say none of the CGI hit era stuff is going to be a contender for the best of that era. So strictly the model stuff. Best, I'm probably going to have to say, and this is upon me like revisiting it for the first time in ages. I'm probably gonna have to say Series 9.
Really? I'm not.
Yeah.
That sounds rude. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, it's all right. Because with Series 8, going into that, having jumped from Series 7 to Series 8, you notice a lot, like you notice a lot more differences. Like a bit because they're from like two completely different eras, and it kind of makes you depressed seeing how that Series A, a lot of people hold it as like, the best of the era. But going into that series, knowing, like seeing the potential it has, but not expanding upon it and jumping into it directly from going from Series 7, it really makes it sting. Whereas if you go from Series 8 into Series 9, you do notice that they do try a little bit harder with they experiment with different episode aesthetics. Some of the characters that they introduce are uh, they have good moments, even though they are for like one episode. I really like what they did with Mighty Mac and Dennis, and there are occasions where the characters, I do feel in character, and overall, I'd say probably like I guess this is kind of like spoilers for the upcoming review, but I'd say Series 9, in the kindest word I can say, is mid.
Not particularly good, not particularly bad.
Yeah,
I
it's very middle of the road. If I gave review scores, it would be a flat out 5 out of 10.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say like going from series 7 to series 8 feels like a stark drop because I feel the same way but with season 6 and 7 where
Really?
yeah, like well cuz I grew up on season 6 and so I think like there's a pretty heavy nostalgia for that. I can admit that narration with Alec Baldwin wasn't always great. There are some times where I'm like, really, you couldn't do try a little harder there. But then there's also like a lot of stuff in there that I feel is just, I like it. I think that the colors in some sets, especially the night sets, oh my gosh, look really good. I say the colors in the night sets. There is no color in the night sets basically. What I'm trying to say is that there is some really good cinematography in there when everything doesn't look super washed out. I don't like editing to season 6 footage because oh my gosh, it's like the most frustrating not widescreen. And
Yeah.
another thing with this video is what I was like going through the last checks and it was all done and I looked at it and I noticed there was a tiny little black bar on either side of one of the pieces of footage, the season 8 footage. And I realized like, oh, that's kind of weird. I wonder if that's just like my computer or something. No. Apparently, it's just barely not full 1080 on either side. So I had to go back through every shot and like bump it up in scale by like 5%. And
Oh
I don't know if you
Jesus!
noticed there's a lot of
I didn't notice me.
there's a lot of shots in like a lot of Thomas footage used in this, so that was a lot of stuff that I had to go through. I'm gonna start this playing again, but I will say,
Yeah.
in so many words, I do think that season 8, yeah, you know what, I don't dislike it. I don't look at any of the episodes and think that they're terrible. I think that they are presented very poorly in terms of like
Yeah.
writing and voice acting. But I don't think that the episodes themselves, like the concepts for them, are necessarily bad.
They're just not done well.
They're just not done very well. The Miller Station again donated $2. Oh my gosh, guys!
Imagine doing Thomas content, shaking my fucking head.
Imagine doing
God,
Thomas
imagine, yeah.
content.
Imagine making Thomas the Train videos.
I
Oh God,
can't
cringe.
imagine. Imagine making like a supplement for the original series. Am I right?
Yeah. To end on a sort of like positive thing, like about Series 9, there is one particular a highlight from that I do think deserves a little bit of praise towards. And did you ever see or at least do you remember the episode that introduced Dennis, the lazy diesel?
I do remember that. I remember thinking
So
it was pretty alright.
it's the scene when like Dennis is derailed and he's basically admitting to Thomas that he tricked him and how like lazy he's been, and as Dennis is admitting how lazy he's been, it just randomly cuts to Thomas and he just has this pissed off look on his face, and he doesn't say anything, but you could just tell that look says, "This lazy motherfucker tricked me."
Yeah, which totally feels like something like that's about the reaction he would have if that happened.
Yeah. Oh God, this bit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this. I'll get to the timeline stuff in a little bit, but this one segment, I kid you not, took an entire like day's worth of work to do. I wish I was joking.
I wish I hadn't recorded it so quickly and made you do all that editing.
No, it's good. It's super funny. I really like this a lot. Until we got to the shapes, and I was like, I don't know what to do here, and so that was yeah. I'm also, just as like a side saying, someone says, "Oh, curse my poverty," like they don't have money to give. Don't worry about that. Like I usually typically during streams, as infrequently as I do them, I do try to read the comments as much as I can. I don't prioritize comments that do tips. This is actually the first time I've actually even gotten tips, so don't feel like, oh, just because I'm not tipping doesn't mean they're not seeing what I'm saying. Yeah, I just don't want people to feel bad about that or anything. Like feel like I'm ignoring you. Yeah, so okay. Wait a minute, hold up. I want to talk about this bit. I can't pause it. That's fine. Let's just go back to this. Dang it, I've lost it again. There was a bit where you were reading it and I was like, no, that's 1 meter 30 inches. Those two units of measurement don't go together. Well, I realized that while I was editing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm such a knob. Like, I was like, haha, funny measurement, and I was like, wait a second, I realized how big a meter is. Quite big, actually. I don't know why I said that. And then like the joke went from haha, look at this funny way for how it's written, to oh, I said something super stupid. Let's leave it in because it's just so stupid.
Yeah, I think by that point we had been recording for like several hours into the production Bible, and we were just exhausted and probably weren't keeping track of the things we were saying making sense.
Yeah.
Which is probably why I went off on that tangent of reading at that speed, because I was just like, oh, this has been going on for ages. I need to energize myself. I'm just going to read this as fast as humanly possible.
Yeah. Well, the bloody thing just wouldn't end. Like, it just kept going. I saw someone say, what do you think about all of the other characters that we didn't talk about? They're fucking boring. That's why they're not in here. I didn't want to like get to cut omitted content so quickly. Um, Even though we've been
Yeah.
going for about 30 minutes now. But yeah, they're fucking boring as shit. It's like there's like tiny little things like I think they said Duck is like a really laid back engine, which is not true.
No.
That's a lie. Um
There
and
are
like
two ways of taking a vacation.
and like there was one about Stepney saying where like what am I trying to say? There was one about Stepney not pulling coaches and only doing trucks, which I don't know where you'd get that from. Uh
I
but
think they probably took that from his enthusiasm to pull trucks in both like Train Stops Play and Stephanie Gets Lost, and because we never really saw him. Wait a minute. No, we did see him pull a lot of like passenger trains because he pulled the special train that was prioritized over Thomas's branch line, and he pulled the express with Duck. So where's the bullshit around him not wanting to pull coaches?
yeah, and he even pulls coaches in uh well, he pulls coaches on the Bluebell Railway, and then he pulls them in what's it called? The one episode Edward the Very Useful Engine. That's the one.
Edward the Very Useful Engine, the one that Unlucky Tug recently tore to pieces.
Yeah. Oh no, did he? No, I like that
Oh,
episode.
did you not? Did you see his Series 6 retrospective?
No, I've been waiting for him to like make all of them, and I'm gonna watch them all in one like rapid fire thing.
Oh, you're going to be waiting a long time for that, my friend.
That's okay. I am a patient man. Well, that's like one of the reasons. But there's two reasons. That and because I've noticed progressively with like the videos that I make, if I watch a certain YouTuber for like a certain amount of time, I will end up emulating their writing style and their opinions. And I don't like that. I don't like just regurgitating what someone else has said to me in my own video. So
Yeah.
for that reason, I try to be very. It's the same reason why I don't watch Totally Not Mark as frequently, just because. And you can kind of see this in the Who Did It Better videos, where it's very close to his style of writing when he did his
Yeah.
set of videos, and so I've been trying to like pull away from that just because I don't want to just
you
be
want
like
you
a
want your own
copycat.
unique voice in your videos.
Yeah. So
Yeah. For me, I
um,
could as I both kind of off and on with like I've like that statement because yes, there are a lot of things that I agree with the Unlucky Tug on, which reflect in how I present my videos. But at the same time, I feel like because his videos are edited and like presented writing wise in a way that thousands of people are able to like, understand and be entertained by, I want to be able to have that same effect on people. So, well, while it is easy to say that I do kind of copy a lot of his style, I do try to bring in my voice as much as possible. I feel like I'm a bit more unhinged compared to his what's sort of like laid back, praising a lot of Thomas and Friends does. Whereas I'm a bit more unhinged, where if something is terrible, I'll really go on that tangent of how terrible it is and try and be a bit more exaggerated and humorous about it to try and get a laugh out of people.
yeah. Well, it's just I. I know what I want to say, but I don't know how to say it. But yeah, I get what you mean of just like trying to. What the hell? Sorry, one
What's
second.
happened?
Something's gone wrong here. That. Okay, we're good. We're back. Something just went wrong on my end for a second, and I've completely lost my train of thought, like 100%. But yeah,
Where
that
we were talking about how our videos can sometimes follow the Unlucky Tug style.
right, yeah. So that's just the reason why I personally haven't kept up with those retrospectives, just because, I want when I watch a thing, I want it to be like my own opinion versus someone else's opinion, because I've noticed a lot that I'll just like not copy what someone else thinks about something, but it's hard to explain because like the whole point of those kinds of video essays is to explain your point and get people to agree with you. I mean, it's not the whole point, but a large portion of it is
Yeah.
making a thing and being like, this is why I think this way, and explaining that. And I try my best just to not, I guess, emulate those thoughts and be like, oh, well, this person thinks this, so I have to think this as well. I like to have my own voice on the matter.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there can be a distinctive difference between expressing a shared opinion amongst like other Thomas creators and flat out copying what the other person has said. Because I feel like if you present exactly the same information from like the Unlucky Tugs videos in the exact same way that he does, you know, not exactly so like word for word, but in like the exact same way, in the exact same opinions, that's a lot more of a way of saying you're flat out just copying what he did. Whereas if you give shared opinions, but kind of like word them differently, whilst also bringing your own thoughts into it, you can come off as, yes, you have been inspired by the Unlucky Tug. I feel like that's heavily noticeable in a lot of my content, but you're not trying to say that you're better than him.
yeah. Um, yeah, that pretty much is exactly what I've been trying to say and failing because sometimes my brain just flatlines for a second. Uh, one last thing I want to bring up is Miller Station says Play Don't Pause ends up making Thomas Train's videos after watching so many of them, which I just think is really funny. Like, yeah, I wish that I could do like half of the cool stuff that people do in trains. I know that I talk a big game in videos, and I do generally know a lot about like cinematography and film. I would not last 10 minutes in Train Simulator. I would be fucked.
I've, I've I've never used a like trains simulator before. I'd love to own it at one point, you know, to again to be able to tell my own stories with it. But I know next to nothing about how the fundamentals of it work.
Yeah, I just like I've seen people use it, and like you see like in videos, and it's like, oh, it's like this, and then you see someone use it without all of the like the smoke and mirrors, and it's like looking into the void. I don't even, I have not a clue what I'm looking at. The Miller Station, I don't even use it.
Scrapyard Studios has asked thoughts on the big retrospective. What he's referring to there, I'm not sure if you know about it,
Uh,
Played was, but
that
there was recently a huge Tugs retrospective that was released. Where it's interviewing a bunch of like the cast members, not the cast members, but the production crew and all that jazz. I haven't seen it, but I am aware of it, and I do plan to watch it at some point.
I haven't seen it because I haven't watched Tugs. And now everyone
He's-
in the comments can take that. That's not okay. That's not entirely true. I did watch. I've watched like a significant portion of Tugs. I think if I pull up the playlist real quick.
I remember that you took it upon yourself to watch a couple of episodes after you helped edit the audio for my Tugs review.
Yeah, well, I figured like I should probably like watch a little bit of this. I think I got too jinxed and then I stopped and then I never finished it. So the last one that I watched was Ghosts, and I would like to talk about Tugs as a video one day. Um but to give you the long and short of it, I don't really have an opinion one way or the other, which is hilarious because I watch a lot of stories of Sodor. Um
And
so it's
and Victor's definitely inspired by Tugs.
yeah, it's very close to the same show. Like I noticed a lot of similarities between the two. Um,
To a point where I think he also uses like a lot of the same kind of like stories, because the story that he does around Arthur and that Australian engine, that is almost word for word the Tugs story High Winds.
yeah, which I haven't seen, but I have seen. Yeah, I believe that that's the same. I think I saw. someone, I don't know if it was like a live stream or a reaction video or something. Someone brought up that intro sequence was like almost word for word the same thing. And it brought up an interesting thing that has nothing to do with the Hit Era video of at what point do you get from like a ripoff of something to an adaptation? And I don't know the answer to that. That's a
I'm struggling to think of an answer to that too. My mind's drawing a blank thinking about that.
because like you could argue poorly probably. I don't think there's an argument, but someone could argue that the classic series is a quote unquote rip-off of the Railway series. Like it's not, but like
It's yeah, it isn't.
it does, well, in a way, like it does lift a lot of dialogue from the original and tells
Yeah.
the same stories just in a different way. So I don't know what to make of that. Um so yeah. But yeah,
I think what saves Thomas and Friends from being a rip-off of the Railway series is that there's enough information that is adapted from the books, almost word for word, to see it as an adaptation. But to save it from being a rip-off, there is enough of a visual medium and the benefits that come from presenting your story on television that make it enough to stand out on its own.
yeah. Okay, yeah, I can see that. There is like, especially as it goes on into season 3, there's a lot more of a diverge from the source material.
Yeah,
Just with how certain there's like entire sections of episodes in seasons 3 and 4 that are just cut off from the original stories. For the
yeah.
better, I would say, because there are some stories in the Railway series that just don't work. That I just do not like. Like Thomas and the Twins. I do not like the What a
That's a
Picture story.
that's a Christopher Audrey book, right?
That is a Christopher Audrey book. Um, and Scarloy Remembers is another one where it's just I don't particularly care for. It's a good book. I just don't think that story is very interesting. Which I know sacrilege, but I'm sorry. I like to see things happen, and just not a whole lot in that one happen, which is fine for like the first one. It's set up. I get that, but
Yeah,
I don't know. Okay, we've got to move on from Tugs at some point.
yeah.
So let's get into omitted content because there's a lot of it that was supposed to be in this video that didn't end up showing up in this video. Uh, where do I even start? There is so much fluff in this Bible that doesn't matter. Like it's just so nothing. It's not even funny. Um, and I guess to start with would be the additional characters. Excuse me. Bill and Ben was like the first one or is the only one that really feels like they tried to make something interesting here. Because
Yeah,
after that, like Harvey has like a fair bit, but as you go down, it gets like less and less interesting. It gets less egregious as well, but it also just becomes like, okay, there's nothing interesting here. Like Oliver and Toad never show up in the Hit era, to my knowledge, until maybe season 12.
yeah,
And maybe just like some background shots. Fergus frickin' never shows up at all. Most of the season 7 characters don't. There just wasn't a whole lot to talk about with those. So that, like, the additional characters, which it pains me to say, trust me, because we had like a 2.5 hours talking about all the characters. Just like the mainline characters. A significant portion of that got cut to keep the video at a decent pace.
yeah.
Um,
Otherwise, it would. Otherwise, this video would have. It might not even have never come out. It would have just felt like an eternity before it came out.
yeah, it would have come out in January of 2024 if I covered every single bit. Some of the Steam team members got cut as well because of some behind the scenes difficulties. There's no like one thing. I just something bugged in the recording, and I was like, well, that's not gonna work. I think I only noticed it after it got fixed. So, whoops. Um, so I mean, I think we got like a pretty good spread of characters though, regardless. Moving along, there was a whole bunch. Okay, all the narrow gauge engines are
Actually, I was
just
going to say before you get to the narrow gauge engines, I wanted to point out Fergus is on this list,
he is.
and I wonder. I think this also like further solidifies of this being a first draft because this definitely must have been written before the Fergus prop was broken and was unable to be used.
That's it does say it was made in 2003, which is when uh,
Which is when the Series 7 was released.
yeah, so I that might I almost wonder if because the story goes that that prop was broken from the rock slide episode, right?
Yeah, his flywheel was damaged by the falling rocks.
Yeah, I wonder if that if they filmed that episode and then either wrote this and discovered it was broken, or they wrote this and then something else happened to the model, and then a showrunner was like, "Oh, it was just broken after the rock slide because it got buried by freaking the gravel that we use out in the parking lot, I assume, or something."
The way that I see it is maybe they were presented with a list of characters that they were using like, at the time while Series 7 was being filmed. And so when writing the Bible together, we're writing the Bible and then presenting the first draft to the executives was the time that they were filming maybe like some of the last bits of Series 7 because it was, again, heavily rushed. And that was during the time that Fergus's prop was broken, and then in second and third drafts of the Bible, Fergus was cut out.
Yeah, Miller Station. Someone had too much fun with trains. Also, someone asked thoughts on Among Us, and yes. Let's keep going. So the narrow gauge engines. There's nothing here that's interesting. And I know I said that in like the location scene, and then immediately we found interesting stuff.
The smelting shed.
But I'm gonna read you an excerpt from the Skarloey Railway stuff. And I just want you to let me know how interesting this is. Skarloey, a red narrow gauge steam engine, and Rheneas's best friend. Skarloey is a leader. Period. That was all one sentence. Prepared to stand up and be counted. Prepared to stand up and be counted. He nonetheless, too many spaces, won't take undue risks and has great regard for the perils in his working environment. Working the quarries and the mountains creates a kind of hardness which Skarloey exhibits. He is a team player. Like, not only is it's written, aside from it being written weird, that none of that materialized in
None of that related to how Skarloey was portrayed in the hit series at all. So, did they like write that and thought, no, this shit's too boring. Let's just give him something else.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense actually. But what's weird is that like it's like they flipped some of the character like personalities around. Like Sir Handel became the super mature one. Skarloey became a freaking goof, and Rheneas was like basically the same way Duncan was, I guess. Like he was also like very reckless and irresponsible. And I don't know why they did that. Makes me big question mark. Hello?
Yeah. I'm still here.
Oh, sorry.
I was just letting you finish your sentence.
Yeah. So that's just why the narrow gauge engines just they're not interesting. And it's same with like the non-engine characters. There's a whole bit about Sir Topham Hatt and his wife, which the way I worded that is interesting. The drivers and firemen, which they just say don't use them. Yeah, so lots of stuff got axed from this. There was
There's also the
also
minor characters with Bulgy, George, Caroline, and Bulstrode of all characters.
yeah. How did Bulstrode? He keeps making his way into this. He needs to be stopped. Like
It just somehow keeps on finding his way back in.
Christopher Audrey wrote in this one-off character for one story where he shows up in a single scene and then dies. I think in the book he dies. They say that it's the remains of Bulstrode, which is, huh?
Does he? I need to double check that because I have a copy of the big like collection of like Christopher Audrey stories from that I forget who linked it, but it was one that I got from the Unlucky Tugs Railway Series video. Right, let's have a look at the book here. It was Toby Trucks and Trouble that the book
Yes.
the book story originated from. Right, here we go.
I know that because it's the same book that Toby's Seaside Holiday is from.
Yeah,
Gosh, I'm a nerd.
page 93.
Yeah, because that's the only story that was adapted from that book into, well, I guess technically two stories that were adapted from that book for season 4. Everyone's screaming, they're singing Thomas, You're the Leader in chat. What is happening here? But it's with Scarlowi instead. Wait a minute, what is... what is... Pride of the Fleet. I don't like your peaches. They're full of stones. I like bananas because what is the chat has gone off the rails.
Yeah, we thought it would be us that would go off the rails, but no, it was the chat.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, that was while Luke's looking for that. That's the reason why there's just like the main characters and even then like a condensed version of the main characters. It's for time and because just not every character has as interesting or as much stuff to talk about. And also buggy recording stuff. So that's, yeah, that was one thing. There was also a single joke. Well, no, a couple jokes actually that got cut for time. One of them was, you probably heard about this, and I can feel like my face going a little white talking about it.
What joke is it?
It was the fandom cult joke. Not cult, but like the secret fandom.
Oh, the fandom cult joke. Yeah.
That one, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have. I should have gone around and asked people before just using their logos. I didn't think it was a super big deal, but it was, and so I took it out. I was going to replace it with something else, though. This is like the super interesting part. I had another idea to fill in that spot. I think I actually still have the notes for it. Because I wrote it down, because there are some like lines in here where I'm like, oh, this would be a really funny thing to put here, and so I wrote it down for later. Let's see here.
Oh, found it! I found it.
Found it. Okay.
And
I'll let you go first.
I can clarify. Bulstrode doesn't die.
He doesn't die, really.
Yeah, the line says, "As for Bulstrode, when everything had been cleared, his remains were towed to a nearby beach where they could do no harm. Now children play happily among the wreckage. If Bulstrode is still grumbling, as I expect he is, the children take no notice." And then it's just an image of Bulstrode looking sad whilst people climb all over him.
Huh. I guess I was wrong. I guess I misremembered that then. All I remember was the remains.
I think what you misremembered it as is it's the truck's remains, which is it's actually kind of like a dark line here where it says the trucks were upset at losing some of their friends, but were very little bothered about Bulstrode.
Yeah, that would do it. That would 100% do it. Well, I think I heard remains, and that's the exact same wording I think that they used for Scruffy, is that they took his remains. But well, Bolstro didn't die, but the freight cars died. So still an acceptable amount of death in the Railway series. Don't you
Yep.
worry, kids. There was still people dying.
The Grim Reaper comes for all of us in the end, even sentient machines.
Where was that? Don't tell me I deleted it. Oh, I really hope I didn't. It was like a really funny bit. Oh, I think I did. Okay, so I'm gonna try to reenact this bit as best I can. So we're talking about the secret fandom, and instead of the joke that was in there, I was like, okay, what about oh yeah, you break into Mattel's headquarters, start rummaging around through all their shit, and then it would smash cut to me, like talking in front of a fake, essentially a fake Who Did It Better, being like, yeah, I thought that Down the Mine was pretty good, although it was a little weird. All the models seemed different, and there was no music, and the narrator wasn't Ringo Starr. And at the time, that was the funniest shit to me. And then I did the VO because there was like just for the lines that I wanted to add in, and I was like, it just wasn't as funny, and I couldn't really think of like a way to make it exceptionally funny, and so that also got cut, and so that joke just got like scaled down. I still think it works perfectly fine. I still
Yeah.
got to take a shot at the Flat Earth Society, so that's really all that matters at the end of the day.
That does beg the question, though. Who do you think did like the temp narration before they got Ringo Starr on board?
I would have to say either probably Britt Allcroft or David Minton. That makes the most sense to me, or just someone who was on their staff.
Yeah, because that's how they did because that's how they did like the temp audio for the like Tugs episodes. If you see a lot of like the raw clips that were like uploaded to like a drive some time ago, you can momentarily hear like the voices of the production crew and David Mitten voicing the boats. It's actually how they got the voice for the main antagonist boat Zoran. It was it was Chris Tulloch who was in charge of a bunch of the technician work for like driving the boats around. He only did the temp voiceover for Zoran, but the crew loved it so much they just let him voice the character.
Yeah, so I would probably say that. Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting how like just we'll use this as a temporary thing. Eventually blooms into like, oh well, we like this so much that let's do it anyway, and that happens all the time in film where, oh well,
Yeah.
like I it's not like a mainstream film example, but an example that comes up to me is what's it called? When Dragon Ball Z Abridged was going through its second season, they had Little Karibo do a audition for one of the characters, and he did the audition for one of the characters, but he
Captain
also did.
he did Captain Ginyu, but they loved his Frieza voice so much that they asked if he could play that role instead.
Yeah, which I think is just like super cool that stuff like that, and that happens in like regular film as well too. Also, someone Damo Z gave me another $2. You guys are too nice to me. I really thank you. I really appreciate it. Chris Turlock was the only narrator for the rough cuts of Tugs, I
Oh,
assume.
oh, that's interesting. I could have sworn I heard David Mitten's voice when I like listened to the Drive videos, but that could be just my mind playing tricks on me.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about for like stuff that was cut. The next time I do one of these streams, I think I'll probably like keep all of the excess stuff that doesn't make it in, and then I'll put that as
Yeah.
its own separate thing. Because there is like some cool stuff that unfortunately just doesn't make the cut during projects like this.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. There's bound to be stuff that'll be left on the cutting room floor.
yeah, there was also, I will say, there was a little bit of audio that was moved around a little bit for just to make it a little more interesting. Like that line where you say, at the end of the road, turn right. If you're a train, fucking derail. That's from a completely separate clip. Like that's like not part of that conversation at all. But I thought it was so funny. I was like, oh, I have to find a way to make this work. The
My nasally
last
impression of the I completely forgot the name.
of
Sat nav. That's the name. Because for some, I completely forgot the name of what a sat nav is.
yeah, we call him Siri over here. It's just the Siri voice for us. The last thing that I really want to go over, and this is, I don't know how exciting this is going to be because it's not, it's interesting for me. I don't know how interesting it would be for other people. If I can make a source. I want to show off the timeline a little bit. I made a bunch of files for this. I probably won't use all of them, but I at least want to like give an idea because I saw a lot of people when this video came up say, and rightfully so, say that, oh my gosh, finally it's here after so long, a new video. This is the timeline for this project. As you can see, big.
Jesus.
Very big. So let's do a little like scene breakdown if you don't mind, Luke. Would you mind if I
Go ahead. As a fellow editor, this stuff, I'm intrigued by.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to go off on a tangent for a little bit. I messed something up in my thing, so I want to make sure my scene is all good. Oh geez, I'm doing something wrong in the background. There we go. Now I've got the right thing selected here. So, where do I even start? Not by selecting that, that's for sure. Okay, lock that. There we go. So, how this got made is, and this was a completely different style of editing than what I'm used to, and this actually made it go a lot faster. This probably would have taken twice the time if I'd done it the way I usually make my videos, is that I broke down each individual like bit of audio for each topic into its own sequence. In Premiere, you see up here we have like sequences for like intro, scene 1, scene 2, and so on. That's what all of this different colored stuff means. It gets a little more green as we go on because I just stopped caring about color coding it. But I would take like, so this is the intro, and this is probably like a minute long, and then this goes into a sequence, and then we go through the audio, so talking about the stuff at the start where we're just kind of like building up to the main event, and that goes in a sequence. This is scene 1, which why the intro is in scene 1, we'll get to that. Then we got scene 2, scene 3, scene 4, and basically it is so much easier to edit like this because instead of looking at it like, I've completely lost where I am here. Okay, you're seeing background on thing here. The illusion's broken that this is all connected perfectly, but as you can see, this trying to like make this all work and troubleshoot when you're proof watching it would go very poorly. You would not be able to do it as well. And also, if you're, say, I wish I had like a marker that I could like put on screen. Is that a thing?
Maybe you can like use your mouse to point. Can you bring the mouse up on screen, or is it?
I don't know if I can. I wonder if I can just like add a shape. Color source. That is indeed a shape. Okay. Oh, I've selected the wrong thing.
It's all gone grey.
Yep, that would be that's the color source. Can I not select the color source? There we go. I figured it out. I'm a master. Can you see this?
It's gone grey again.
It's gone grey. There we go.
Yep, there it is. I see the rectangle.
So looking at this, when you're editing as a giant thing, and you're say here, right? You're on this bit here, and then you look over and you're like, oh, I have all of this left to do. Just looking at this, for me personally, is exhausting. When I see this, I'm like, okay, I want to stop for a bit. But when you break it down into scenes, I found that like, okay, I only have to make like a minute's worth of thing for this scene, and then I can move on to the next scene and then make like a couple minutes for that. Not every scene is like a minute long, like the shower scene, which I think is over here somewhere in this area. That was about 3 minutes worth, but it is a lot easier to break it up into bite-sized chunks. And I definitely think going forward, I'm going to try to do that more often, because not only is it good for breaking it up to make the workload feel more manageable, it's also very good for when you're going back to proof watch stuff. So here is...
You watch it scene by scene.
Yeah, so like here's the timeline all by itself. And eventually you will have to watch all of this as one big thing, because you get to a certain point where you can't go any further until you put it all together.
Yeah.
But if I go into here, let me show you what it looks like. Here is just the intro. As you can see, it looks bigger because it's more zoomed in, but this is actually only about a minute long.
Yeah.
It's way easier to deal with. The intro itself, pardon me for a second. Sorry, I've been drinking like a can of soda. I got water with me, and not content with being healthy, I decided to also get a can of cream soda out of the fridge. And so it's making my throat feel a little tingly. Oh God. Excuse.
It's okay.
I'm back. I'm good. I didn't die.
The cream soda's killing Play Don't Pause.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. So this is the intro was a little trickier to work with because let me pull up the video again if I may. That's not right. There's the one. So going through here, I'll mute this just so it's a little easier to understand. All of this is like separate layers. So the street is its own layer, and then the city background, you can see it's kind of scrolling parallax with this. That's a separate layer that's been done. The car,
I can kind of see it moving.
the fucking Ferrari, because of course it had to be, or no, a Lamborghini, because you know you gotta have the Lambo. Is its own bit with the wheels, which are cut out in Photoshop, moved to like the center of Photoshop so that there's like a little thing in Premiere that says move this object based on this point, which you don't notice for when it's positioned, but when it's rotating, it has to be a certain way. So I edited
and
myself.
And then it really like messes up when you're trying to like spin images.
Yeah. So I cut out the wheels and made them their own layer, and then overlaid that. I had to put black into here as well, just to make sure that you couldn't see like through the car. And then there's this orange fucking rectangle, which I thought was a glitch, but is just here. That's just part of the car, apparently. This is all, and then for this bit, it's gone too far forward to really see all that well, but all of this is cut out. So like, here's me. The avatar just sits in here. But then like all the windows are cut out, so it's just like empty in the background, and then you can put in whatever you want. Like if I wanted to, I could make the background underwater. So you can't really get a good idea for that here because all of these are nests, so they're all grouped together into like subsequences. But yeah, and then this was probably the most complicated scene to do, next to the shower scene.
And my speed reading.
Yeah, the speed reading was simple. It was just a lot of stuff, but it was fun. I really enjoyed making this video because there's so much there's so many different ways that you can take it. I never felt like I was like, oh, I don't know what to do here for this bit, because there's always an option that you can take for like making something work. You're not just solely relying on footage, and when you run out of footage, you're like, well, guess I'm out of luck. So yeah, that's why that's just to give an example of why this took so long. There's like a lot of very technical stuff in here. It's mostly simple stuff, but it's a lot of Photoshop and a lot of like cutting things out and moving them around.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's why it took so long. Um,
Well, definitely worth it, I think.
I think so too. It was a good project. I'm thinking of like releasing some of the Photoshop files, just for people to have, because there's a lot of effects in here that I think are worth like people being able to like go in there and play with themselves. I
Yeah.
might do that. I might not. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I got to say about this video.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So Luke, thank you very much for joining me on this one. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Um,
this is great fun to do.
yeah, I enjoyed making this, editing it, putting it together. I want to say thank you to everyone who helped. Thank you, Miller Station, for watching over it again, just to make sure that it was all good. Thank you to Ryan Sock for helping as well. He was a big contributor to this, and he gave me a lot of information about like the Railway series versus this, and just like how it doesn't look good. It doesn't make the hit era look good, is what I'm trying
It
to
re-
say.
yeah, it really doesn't. And to kind of like repeat myself, like from that video, the one positive you can have to this Bible is that at least everything that they said that they would do came to fruition.
Yeah. And I also want to say one other thing. Don't, even though we joked about this, we made fun of it, don't go harassing anyone for making this. I won't say who made this or who leaked it out, but don't go looking for them, please. Don't go finding them and saying like, you ruined my favorite show, because that's just not cool. That's not okay.
Yeah,
Like,
don't do that because at the end of the day, the people that wrote this were just doing what executives told them to do,
yeah,
and they're people just like you and me.
yeah. Do I think that this is like the be all end all way to do it? No, I don't think that they would say, "Oh, that this is the best thing they've ever made." But I also think it's like Luke said, it's they're people making stuff, and I mean, credit where credit is due. Could have been all engines go.
Oh God,
They could have
yeah,
jumped.
it could have been a hell of a lot worse.
They could have jumped straight into the. They could have like jumped. I think it would have been 12, 13 years in the let's make TV shows for the youngins evolutionary chain, where it went
Yeah,
from, well, let's make something that's a little slower, more like methodical, to just make funny faces for 30 minutes, and then there you go. They'll buy it. Of course they will. They're stupid kids. Um,
jeez.
but yeah, that'll do it for this. I want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you for the tips. I I wish I had a more to like say to express my gratitude for that. I've never gotten tips before, so thank you very much. And yeah, this was fun. Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, you're very welcome.